Hello and welcome to the most hated show in the black corner of the internet. This is your host, Mr. Blows Your Minds, and this is Black MINDZ News. Today's date, July 20th, 2019. First and foremost, we want to give honor and glory to the Creator of the universe. Because why? The truth don't need no partner. As a descendant of the greatest people who created this land that you call the United States, we, the BADOS, Black American descendant of slaves, Black African descendant of slaves, or African descendant of slaves, we, the historical lineage, bloodline, DNA of our ancestors of today, we give honor to our ancestors. You know what my motto is? I'm never going to tell you what I heard. I'm only going to tell you what I know. Well, today's show topic: did the Ku Klux Klan murder 29 children and let innocent black men take the fall? I'm going to say that again. Did the Ku Klux Klan murder 29 children and let the innocent black man take the fall? Somebody say innocence. There was no innocence because there was also conviction in the case. But does partial conviction make you take the whole lot of it? Well, you know, we already did the follow story earlier this year where Keisha Bottoms has reopened the case. Did some scouring today, and I ended up finding something that, again, somebody is trying to give a confession on their, knowing that their demise is approaching. Are we to take that serious? Is what they saying true, or is this setting up something? Again, this is Black MINDZ News. We say stay tuned for this broadcast. Hey, how's y'all doing? Again, this is Mr. Blows Your Minds, and this is Black MINDZ News. Again, July 20th, 2019. First and foremost, I want to say what's good to the subscribers out there. Thank you for your participation. Passerbys, if you should just happen to stumble across the most hated show on the black corner of the internet, welcome to this show. Go down the aisle, see if you like something. If you see something that you might just rub you the wrong way, don't be taking it personal. It's only the truth. And sometimes truth has this way of affecting people, but don't be angry. Again, we just disseminate news over here. Sometimes it's the things that the media don't, say the general media, don't allow to be heard. Again, we do this to be informed. Now, again, as I told you at the beginning, I came across this information that somebody has put out. And again, I had already just did the anniversary of the Atlanta child murderers, right? For those who are, avid watchers of the show. And so, there's always been a question as to what really took place. It was 29 individuals who lost their lives as children. And they had it that one man, Wayne Williams, was the culprit to all the killings, right? And is it possible for one man to do all that killing? Well, they call it serial killers, right? And sometimes we have to look at things and wonder, is it possible? Because at one time it used to be that the only people who were serial killers were, Caucasian white Americans, right? And then somehow, certain things and events have taken place that now has kind of poster people of color in certain aspects. But again, the historical aspect of it is not really a blackface. But this one here particularly, because again, this was in the South. This happened between the time of 79 and 81. And when it was all said and done, they end up get an individual named Wayne Bertrand Williams, who was born May 27, 1958. And what's kind of strange about the whole, trial and how this took place, it seems like the only thing he was convicted of was 2 of the murders. Right? He was only convicted of 2 murders, suspected to have murdered the other 23. Well, it should have been more than that, because that's 23 and 2 is only 25. That means there's at least 4 other people that were not associated with him. But the last story that I did on Black Minds News showed that they had discovered that there was 2 females who their crime did not match the other crimes, right? And so the mayor of Atlanta, I think it's Keisha Bottoms, decided that she is going to reopen the case because, again, the community, the city, the state cannot get closure because, again, they did not believe. And, again, according to what had took place in the trial, seems that there was a rush to close it after the conviction of Wayne Bertrand Williams, right? And so, again, I'm about to show you here, part 1, is let's go back to, this particular time where CNN had did an interview with Mr. Williams. And this is just a part of the interview. But then when you look at the interview, you have to ask yourself, the angle that they're coming, because they had already had a prior interview, but they said there was one other thing they wanted to ask that they didn't ask then. And so when they came back, this is what had been said, and then I'll come back after that, and then let's see, we'll talk about after that, right? All right, so hold on to make sure this is all correct. And then we hit this, and then let's get into it, all right?
Good morning, how you doing?
When we returned to prison for our final interview with Wayne Williams, we had one question he was not expecting. What Wayne had written about being recruited for espionage training as a teenager. At a secret government camp hidden in the woods near this North Georgia lake, where he was given what could amount to a license to kill. It's called Finding Myself. What's Finding Myself? It reads like an autobiography.
Go ahead, I'm listening. I'm still trying to see.
It's a account of your CIA training.
We're not going to get into that.
Why not?
We're not going to get into that.
I got a copy of it.
Yeah, but we're not going to get into that.
Why not?
You're just simply not going to get into that.
By his account, Wayne Williams was fresh out of high school, just 18 years old, when he was initiated into a secret world. So, I'll do the talking part, and you can answer what part of it you want. You write how you fired rifles, submachine guns, handled assault weapons, grenade launchers, C4, learned unarmed combat techniques through this training group over weekends. Is it true or is it false?
We're not going to comment on that.
When you're 19 years old. You're saying you work for the CIA. You've been recruited.
I'll let the document speak for itself. We're not going to comment on that.
Copyright 1992 by Wayne Williams. Is this an autobiography?
I cannot comment on that.
Were you trained in unarmed combat techniques? Could you grab somebody bigger than yourself, put them in a chokehold? Because that's what that is.
I'm sure there are other things in unarmed combat besides putting somebody in a chokehold.
Well, when I talk to the military experts and I say to them, what exactly does that mean? That's one of the things on their list. Top 2 things, by the way.
I wouldn't doubt that.
So, are you trained in that or not?
Let me say this. Let's just say that I had some experiences that I do not want to comment on today for reasons that the document says, okay? The fact is, what does that have to do with the situation today?
Everything.
You tell me.
It has everything to do with it.
Listen.
A big part of the conversation when I talked to your lawyers was, could Wayne Williams grab somebody? Did he have the strength? Look how he's not a big guy. Could he grab someone in a unarmed combat technique and kill them? It's actually a very simple question. Can you kill someone with a chokehold? And when you were 19 years old,
you probably could under the right
I know for a fact I
circumstances.
could not. I know you're being facetious, but I know for a fact I could not.
You don't know.
But were you trained as a teenager to do that? Because that's what you're writing in this.
All
And
I
I get CIA. You don't want to talk about it. It's all off the record.
Let me state this for the record. Okay. I think in the paper that you have, and I will say this, that it says that there was contact with a certain program, and I will say it was the junior officer training program, which was run by a certain agency, and you're correct, CIA. But I never said that I worked for them. I simply said
now who's splitting hairs?
that I had some contact with some person, and that's all I'm going to say.
Were you trained
That's all I'm
in
going to
these
say.
techniques?
That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, so that was the interview that had been done by CNN. And what you see there is that, again, you see her coming in and having this conversation with Wayne Williams. And accordingly, he had written some documents, or maybe according to what she's saying, autobiography, as to having espionage training by the CIA, right? And so, based on that, accordingly, if you hear that, you would say that, yeah, if somebody's trained by the CIA in combat espionage, then they had some tactical training, some knowledge for her that is not, privy to civilians and, trained in a certain way, as she said, licensed to kill. And the name of that program, according to what she was saying, was called Finding Myself. And, accordingly, he was initiated or had been taken in about when he was 18 and 19 years old. And accordingly, she wanted to focus on the fact that he had unarmed training. Now, again, if we're talking about the Atlanta child murders, and primarily most of them were young children they was like adolescents or younger, right? So I guess what they wanted to feed in that, you see at this particular time when this is taking place, this is much later, as a duration of how he came in when he really got arrested. If I'm not mistaken, I think he was arrested back in like June of, I think it was like June 21st, 1981, right? So we're talking about over almost like 30 years later when they had this interview. So, why have this interview to talk about his training? Because again, it's kind of like you having the social public, trying to sway the public as to, look, see, there's no way we didn't get this wrong. We got this right because this guy here is trained. Now, again, I can't say for a fact, but let's just say according to what they only convicted him of the two, and the two that he did were grown folks. They weren't children, right? But he took the fall for all of the 29. You see, he acknowledges that, he did have contact, with individuals that, again, according to I think it was junior officer training, right? He admits to that. But he said he can't get into the ins and outs about that because, again, look at the positions he in, where he's at. If he speaks certain things, again, he's a sitting duck. And I guess he said ain't no need to really reveal that. But again, he also says, what did that have to do about, the whole thing? Meaning, when you talk about the Atlanta child murders and the 29, what does that have to do with him associated because of this that he knew and what he had done and been trained that had to do with him supposedly murdering, the other 27. Because say if he was only convicted for the 2, there's 27 other individuals that he was not, credited for their demise. And so she wanted to just keep saying that you was killed in combat, that you were trained, that you could kill an individual, right? And this is supposed to, again, permeate in the minds of the media, or not the media, but society, those who are viewing it, that persuade them that, yeah, he was capable of doing it, right? But when you go through the litany and the list of names, and it reads out how they found them and so forth, and then you have different kinds of people giving their testimonies about what took place. There was more than one individual that sometimes people seeing, and so could he have had help and been, maybe, or, maybe the simple fact that maybe he worked with somebody, because again, he's trying to make it clear that I did not work who you claiming I was affiliated with somebody who might have been attached to it, who was doing the training. But again, I'm not going to say, and again, the documents already tell you, so I'm not going to sit here and say no more. Right? So we see that, based on that interview to the public, making public opinion, to sway public opinion, and primarily we're going to say more people who are in Atlanta. Right? Because the Atlanta community had been torn up. Again, I did the video, again, I did the story, and talking about a lot of people talking about PTSD and, and a lot of stuff that took place because of that, and not having the closure of what really took place, because again, they closed it based on the simple fact they had this individual, and so this was, sufficient enough. Now, let me show you something else here, right? So keep that in mind, right? And so I found this other part here, right? So we're going to go. And there was a juror that was put, sat on as a juror at the trial. And let me let you hear what she said, and then let's come back. Check this out.
In the wake of the case being reopened, one of the 12 jurors responsible for putting Wayne Williams in prison for life is explaining the verdict for the first time. It's an 11 Alive exclusive. Does it surprise you that the case all of a sudden is resurfacing?
Doesn't surprise me, because I've seen it over the years when he files for appeals.
For you, what specifically made up your mind?
Well, after seeing all the evidence that was presented, and so the public thought one way and we witnessed another. We saw everything that happened. We listened to everything that happened. You are not in that courtroom every day from sun up to almost sundown.
When you hear all these different theories, what comes to your mind as why there are so many different ideas of what might have happened in Atlanta during that time?
A lot of people just didn't know what happened. And I've always had the idea that I don't believe one person could do all of that by themselves. I always thought he had some help, but it just never came out.
I'm pretty sure there was a lot of responsibility that weighed on your shoulders. Did you feel the pressure, regardless of what you guys voted during that trial, that was a big decision and a big responsibility?
Yes, because it's like, here you are in Atlanta, and you're convicting an Atlantan, and a young black male at that.
What message do you have for all those family members that are still waiting for their day of justice?
I would be more than happy if they could find closure. And for the Atlanta community to know for sure that this is what happened. The person that's in jail is the person that should be there.
Wayne Williams is still fighting to defend himself from behind bars. During a recent community forum, Williams called in, proclaiming his innocence to the crowd of family members and community leaders. It was the first time the long-accused suspect spoke out about the investigation reopening and his own hopes for justice.
What's really hurt me about this whole thing is not just the suffering me and my family members. This is nothing compared to what you went through.
While Williams was convicted of killing 2 adults, he was never put on trial for the murders of any of the children. We'll keep following the investigation as 29 families watch and wait for word that a killer is finally brought to justice once and for all. I'm Naima Abdullahi. Thank you for watching.
All All right. So now you see there, you seen one of the jurors that didn't disclose what her name was, right? And so according to what she says, she was not surprised that they had reopened the case, right? Now again, she was a juror on the case. And not to be surprised mean that even though, as she stated, that, you know, as jurors, they sat on the trial every day where people were just getting fed according to what the media was giving them. So again, according to what she believed that, you know, the reason why there were so many different ideas is because, again, as you say, when you read the litany of the different people who had been, of the 29 that had been killed, you got to remember he's only convicted for 2, and the 2 that were adults. Now you have 27 children, but again, as she said, she didn't believe that he himself could have done all that by himself. But there was no evidence in the trial that showed any kind of, you know, collusion or help. You know, it just seemed to be solely by himself. And so, you know, she believed that because he was from Atlanta, they were from Atlanta, and to convict him for this, right, was kind of hard for the simple fact that, okay, he's black like we are. In my heart and mind, I don't believe, because she says that, you know, that by being reopened, she's not, you know, surprised. She's seen that he kept filing for appeals, right? And so she believed that, you know, that if he's not, now this is how she says it, but if he's not, then again, for the community in, you know, say that Atlanta, to get any closure, to find who really did it. Now here you as a juror on there. How, again, like I said, it's kind of split because, again, what they sat on the trial and what they end up convicting is not what was being put out to society. Everybody seemed to have assumed that they had convicted him for all the murders, but that's not what had happened. And so they hoped that they would find who is the true killers or killer, right, of the 27, because he's only convicted for 2. Now, let me show you this part here. It was an individual that, again, they go in and let's put it like this. They got another person who is going to be like, okay, you know, this is what I believe. This is what I know. And so do you take this as factual, right? Do you really take what this individual is saying? Because, again, like they said, you know, people, when they're on their deathbed, they tell the truth, right? So are we to take what this individual you about to hear, what he says? Is there any truth to what he's saying? Or by him saying what he's saying, is that also creating something, right? Is it creating something is what you have to say. And I'll talk about that after the fact. But listen to this and we'll be right back. Check this out and hold on.
Moments after we aired that exclusive report connecting the KKK to the Atlanta child murders, we got a call from a man claiming he was one of the informants in that investigation. And after vetting his identity, we sat down with him to hear for the first time why this insider believes the investigation is far from over. What compelled you after all these years to come forward? Is it something that's been weighing heavy on your heart?
I'm getting ready to die. It's that simple.
This is a man we'll refer to as Larry. We're keeping his identity undercover because he fears retribution for what he's about to reveal. He says he lived a double life as a KLAN member during the top secret KKK investigation called the 8100 file. Nearly 40 years ago, the investigation looked into controversial claims that suggested the KLAN could be responsible for the Atlanta child murders.
This is the most heinous crimes committed in the nation. Killing those kids. What harm did they do anybody? None. The missing and murdered children, as always.
Stuck with you. Did anyone ever ask you, why do you care about these black children?
A lot of agents has asked me, why do you care? They're
I hate that word with a passion.
I'm repeating what was told to me. I meant no personal animosity whatsoever towards it.
Is that a word you used, or was that ever part of your vocabulary?
Never was. You can't address someone civil and with respect, don't address them at all.
Documents state that investigators had at least 2 strategically placed sources. Larry says he became one after a Klan member approached him.
And he asked me if I wanted to join the Klan.
And so he did, as an undercover agent.
Then I was asked to be the bodyguard of the Grand Dragon.
As Larry shared his story, he outlined in details information about the individuals profiled in the KKK investigation.
After 4 or 5 meetings, the missing and murdered children come up. And says, we got to get them. We got to start a war.
That's exactly what the 8100 file details. Within the documents, law enforcement officials explain that the investigation was kept secret and sealed away from the public due to fears it would cause a race riot. 11 Alive first reported on the 8100 file back in 1986, and we uncovered it recently.
The Klans wasn't after girls. They were after males. Because males could cause a lot of problems when they got big, when they growed up.
Larry says he wore an audio recorder which could record up to 10 hours. Documents show the audio recordings were approved by authorities.
You're going to find a lot of records was intentionally destroyed by these agencies. They didn't want the public to know.
He's right. We confirm that all audio recordings, including those wiretaps, were destroyed.
When Wayne Williams was convicted of 2, I said, oh, we quit. This is it. We can close it out.
The GBI helped lead the original KKK investigation. A spokesperson says they destroyed the evidence once agents dismissed a link to the Klan. Documents also state that APD was also involved in the 8100 file. They told us, quote, our investigators have not encountered any files outlining KKK involvement. Larry also recalls details about the boy mentioned in the files, Luby Jeter, who one day bumped his go-kart into a Klan member's car.
They referred to him as a kid had run into a car, a truck, or something with a four-wheeler or a go-kart or something.
And on February 5th, 1981, Luby Jeter was found dead.
I hope they find justice. They're still human, they still bleed, and they hurt.
And as far as reopening the case, he thinks nothing new will surface.
I do not believe they're going to get anywhere.
I guess only time will tell, right?
Time will tell.
I could hear it in your voice and in your emotions that this is a story that has stayed with you.
I can't do nothing for them. Let's drop it.
Wayne Williams is locked up, but not staying silent.
It's not just the suffering me and my family went through. This is nothing compared to what you went through.
Next, what the longtime suspect is saying about the new developments in the case.
All right, so see that they found an insider after they had did this exclusive interview and did the story article as to saying that did the Klan have anything to do with the killings of the Atlanta child murder? And he ended up, this individual supposedly raised his hand and said that he was willing to disclose, because as you heard him say, that he's closing on the demise of his life, right? He's coming at the end of his life, and he's again come to Jesus moment. And so he decided that he wanted to, tell some truth. Now, again, some people will say, well, people say anything. I don't know. I guess if you have to think about when it's your time to leave, if there's some unfinished things that need to be said, I think that's the time to get it off. And so, again, we could take it with a pinch of salt to see if whether it's true or not. But again, I have to ask yourself, what do you gain from it unless, again, as it's talked about, having the Rahawa, right? Rahawa is racial holy war, right? And, based on what we're seeing today in the formulation of so much racial tension out here, that, was this always a plan? Because, again, if, the community would have figured that out and said, this is hypothetical. This is not with certainty. It's just a question, right? And according to what this individual here has said, that he played a double life as a Klanman. He was recruited in, got into the position of being the bodyguard for a Grand Dragon, right? So that means he was kind of close to a lot of information that others outside the circle wouldn't have had privy information to. He said that there was a particular file called the 8100 file. And in that 8100 file, there was, I guess, where the government had either, let's say, recordings, surveillance tapes, and things of that they knew and had. But the fear for allowing this to be manifest is because they believe it would have created a race war, right? And so it looks like that, he said that when the agents was talking, they asked him, well, what the hell do you care about these niggas, right? And, the interviewer took a little offense to it. She said, well, I don't like that word. He said, I'm just relaying to you what they said to me, right? So that would say, if you took that, what he said as a truth, then that would say, well, then the people who are in institutions are sitting in certain places that, again, a lot of people felt like the transition between what you used to see between 50s and 60s, that they reformed themselves and put on, a different uniform, right? And so, and putting themselves in different positions. And so, again, the institution that you use for justice, again, a lot of times people are questioning a lot of the stuff that's happening when we see, civilians who, just being accosted, running, again, the fear of retaliation by, what some people might say rogue municipalities, officers and things of that, that there's some kind of dynamic amongst the rank and file that seems to be having some target. Because, again, it was something interesting that he said when he talked about, well, they wasn't particularly after girls, they were only after young men. And so the reason he said is because young men grow up to be older men, which can cause problems. So, again, the saying is to nip it in the bud. And so, you find out that this 8100 file got destroyed. A lot of the stuff that was particularly having a lot of what the agents of the time had surveillance and what they came and what the conclusion was. Once that Wayne Williams was convicted of the two, they end up destroying all the evidence and closed the case and said there was no link between them and the case. But yet you destroyed all the evidence, right? So think about that. And so you see that there was a situation where it was Luby Jeter who was riding on the bike and somehow bumped into one of the trucks, got out, said some words of exchange to him. I don't believe the little one said anything. Next thing you know, they end up finding his body later on. And then you hear the individual talk about that situation and saying how, again, these children and killing them and how, they haven't done anything to you, and what was the real purpose of it. But again, you were part of that, right? So again, it's just kind of questionable about some of the stuff. Again, some people take what he says truth, and then some people say maybe, again, this could be a little spark to start something, right? Because again, to throw this out here at this time, right? Because of, you know, you got Trump that's pretty much going to get a second term, right? You don't have a candidate that really can. And again, being BADOS and ADOS out here, a lot of people not looking at the candidates from a Democrat as somebody who is in their best interest. So it seems like he's going to get a second term. And so again, this, you know, with the ICE and immigration and, you know, and reparations on the table. So, you know, it's ruffling a lot of feathers out here. And so, you know, what better way than to spark it than to reopen and then come to find out that, again, what you had originally said may not be true, but it might be this. And so what kind of dynamic will that create, right? And again, this is kind of like at that particular time, going back, we're talking about 30 years ago, this was the, you know, well, actually 40 years ago, right? 40 years ago, that was, again, according to this insider who said, but this is what they were trying to do, the racial war, which is Wahawa, right? And to get it cracking. So here we is 40 years later, and then now you're going to re-bring this back. And again, if you change it now, the story than what it is, what kind of dynamic does it change and what does it breed, right? So again, I brought this story just for the simple fact that, again, anybody who might be interested in knowing that it's out here, there it is. Again, there's a little update to it. And I guess there's going to be some more as time goes on, and you see that they are doing exclusive and interviews with this. So again, this is the Black Minds News. Just want to bring this to your attention, that it is out here. And again, you know, this is the most hated show on the black corner of the internet. Because why? Well, we're going to bring that news to you, whether you like it or not, right? It's not always going to be pretty, right? It's not going to be pretty all the time, right? Because the truth sometimes just ain't pretty. It's just what it is. It was what it is. And so my thing is, I don't want to do this, and I don't want to do this, though. Hold on, because I don't want to do it. Hold on. There you go. Slow that up. All right. So, again, just wanted to bring this to your attention. Again, you know, we do on the news, there's always cycles. There's always updates. And so I had just did the Atlanta anniversary maybe about a week or so, 2 weeks ago. And here's another update to it. And so, again, you take it with a grain of salt. You tell me what you think, right? Leave your comments. Again, subscribe, share, comment. And again, this is Black Minds News. To the next show, peace, love, and all that good stuff.
Portions of the following program may be unsuitable for younger or more sensitive viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
Remember, the enemy has only images and illusions, behind which he hides his true motives. Destroy the image, and you will break the enemy.
I'm here to tell you tonight that the businessmen, the mayor of this city, the police commissioner of this city, and everybody in the white power structure of this city must take a responsibility for everything.
Can you feel it? Can you feel it?
Luther and I, and everyone in this arena tonight, are unified by the same great American values. We're proud of our country. We respect our flag. Wouldn't you love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, get that son of off the field right now, out, he's fired. He's fired!
Race is when you use your power and influence to subject people into inferiority. Utterances can't be racist.
Look around you, man. They own this shit. They own this couch you sitting on, them shoes you got on your feet, this building, this school, this country, you. We're behind enemy lines, dog.
So you must first of all remember that this system was not originally designed with black people in mind. Right on! And it definitely was not prepared for black people to, in the end, begin to demand their rights and an equal share in this country which they've died for. Hey, and we definitely are not going back to Africa.
In the church, we used to sing the song, "Good news, the chariot is coming." While you sit here today, knowing that you have come to hear good news, you must realize in advance what good news for you might be bad news for somebody else. What good news for the sheep might be bad news to the world. They say, oh, things are getting so much better for you. In 1849, it was hitting blacks on the head 100 times a day. In 1990, they hit them 48 times a day. Isn't it better? Oh, it's got to be better. You're saved 52 blows.
The only purpose of most black Americans on earth today is to destroy.
I think that's noble. Italians love Italians. When Irish love Irish. But when a nigga loves a nigga, it's an unpardonable sin. They have blood in their hands. When we say they have blood in their hands, we are not saying him, George Bezos, went and killed. But white people colonized us. They dispersed us. They enslaved our people. They sucked our economy dry. They are still sucking it dry even today. That's white people. Tony Blair, George Bush, Napoleon Bonaparte, Leopold, Adolf Hitler, Benjamin Netanyahu, all white people, they are the same. They are racist and they are full of hate.
I've been waiting for you. You have many questions, and though the process has altered your consciousness, you remain irrevocably human. Ergo, some of my answers you will understand, and some of them you will not. Concordantly, while your first question may be the most pertinent, you may or may not realize it is also the most irrelevant.
Why am I here?
Our world is coming crumbling down. The coons are coming.
You got to understand that white America has an uncanny way of making the victim the victimizer. Excuse me, master, for putting my head in the way of your club. Not that your club is brutalizing my head and putting hickeys on it. My head got in the way of your free swing and broke your shiny stick, and I want to apologize for that.
Your life is the sum of a remainder of an unbalanced equation inherent to the programming of the Matrix. You are the eventuality of an anomaly which, despite my sincerest efforts, I have been unable to eliminate from what is otherwise a harmony of mathematical precision. While it remains a burden assiduously avoided, it is not unexpected and thus not beyond a measure of control, which has led you inexorably here.
There are more connections in the human body than there are stars in the galaxy. We possess a gigantic network of information to which we have almost no access.
Matrix is older than you know. I prefer counting from the emergence of one integral anomaly to the emergence of the next, in which case this is the sixth version.
5 months before me. 3. There are only 2 possible explanations. There were 5 months before me. Either no one told me, or no one knows.
Precisely. As you are undoubtedly gathering, the anomaly is systemic, creating fluctuations in even the most simplistic equations.
Control me! I'm gonna smash you to fucking death! Fucking kill you! You can't make me do anything like Chris!
Choice. The problem is choice.
Let us remember that we are not brutalized because we're Baptists. We're not brutalized because we're Methodists. We're not brutalized because we're Muslims. We're not brutalized because we're Catholics. We're brutalized because we are black people in America.
Because white people made him to be what he is. They made him to look evil, because that's their role, to make all of us black people to look evil and to hate ourselves. I can't hate.
You're a nigga till you die. If you're a poor nigga, you're a poor nigga. If you're a rich nigga, you're a rich nigga. But you never stop being a nigga. And if you get to be educated, you're just an educated nigga.
Well, I'm told every day I'm on air that I'm racist because I call out racism. That is maddening to me, and I'm crying about it because it's crazy.
So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is teaching you and I and trying to tell the white man to get this powder keg out of his house. Let the black man separate from his house. Let the black man have his own house. Let the black man have his own land and his own property.
this true?
I think that white people are so guilty, knowing what they've done to black people, that they feel if the deeds were reversed, they would hate the black man if he had done the same thing to them. So it's actually, it reflects a guilt complex on the part of whites when they ask us, do we hate them? And if you notice, Uncle Sam has formed a habit of going all over the world. He calls it the ugly American, or the American image. He thinks that everybody hates him because it's a guilt complex. And if you think that if you are worried about Europeans hating you, and they're your allies and your cousins, well, naturally it would follow for you to think that Negroes in this country would hate you, especially in light of what has been done to black people in this country by white people.
Now, check it out. The white ball dominates everything, right? It knocks the shit out the yellow ball, the red ball, right? And the game's over when the white ball drives the black ball completely off the table.
But you have to see that all of this is hypocrisy.
I love Malcolm. Malcolm called me the Sunday that he died. I was working Basin Street East. He said, Brother Greg, you coming by today? And I said, Malcolm, I love you. And I said, I love you so much, I don't even want to take a chance to be there. He said, what do you mean, Brother Greg? I said, well, I close tonight, Sunday night at Basin Street East. And I said, but I had my wife book me a flight into Chicago at 8 o'clock this morning. And I'm going to Chicago, and I had way beneath my salary, booked me into a college about 10 miles from the airport. And I'm going to go there and speak this afternoon, and I'm going to stay there until they tell me you dead. Because I'm not going to let this government get two of us for the price of one. And I'm going to call Adam Clayton Powell when I finish talking to you and beg him not to come there. Because today, the United States government is going to get you.